After more than 30 years in gastroenterology, Harvard, Stanford, and thousands of colonoscopies later, I've come to a realization that's both fascinating and a little funny. So many people come to me looking exhausted, one hand on their chest saying, "Doc, it feels like my chest is on fire, my throat burns, I can't sleep at night." And when I dig deeper, the culprit isn't anything exotic. It's simply the spicy, fiery foods they love every single day. Have you ever felt that? A bowl of pho with extra chili, a piece of grilled meat dipped in hot sauce, or just a few drops of spicy salsa on bread. At first, that kick of heat makes the meal feel exciting, even addictive. But a few hours later, that same kick turns into a real fire blazing in your chest. I remember one patient, about 55, originally from Mexico. He told me, "Doc, I've eaten spicy food my whole life. Without chili, the meal just feels bland. But lately, every time I eat spicy food, it feels like my chest is burning. And when I lie down, my throat feels raw." When I scoped him, the lining of his esophagus was red and inflamed, like a thin wall being eroded day by day. It wasn't some rare disease. It was simply years of chilies and hot spices acting as a silent fire starter inside his body. Science explains it very clearly. Chili peppers contain a compound called capsaicin. That's the stuff that gives chili its fiery kick we're all familiar with. But capsaicin doesn't just wake up your taste buds. It also irritates the nerves, making your body feel that burning heat. Even more concerning, it relaxes the lower esophageal sphincter, the gatekeeper that normally keeps stomach acid where it belongs. And once that gate loosens up, acid slips back into the esophagus much more easily, leaving you with that unmistakable burning sensation. Younger folks can usually get away with it. Their bodies are still resilient, and the lining of their esophagus is thicker. But after 50, that protective wall thins out and weakens. What used to be just a quick thrill from spicy food can now turn into a fire that steals an entire night's sleep. I often ask my patients, do you want your meal to burn bright for a few minutes, or would you rather enjoy a peaceful night's rest? It sounds simple, but that question makes people pause, because after 50, we start to realize that happiness isn't in the short-lived bursts of excitement. It's in the long stretches of calm and comfort. That doesn't mean you have to banish flavor from your life. I'm not suggesting you live on bland food. Instead of chilies, you can turn to spices that are both fragrant and healing. Turmeric, cumin, fennel seeds, ginger. They warm the stomach without damaging it. Many of my patients, after making this simple switch, were surprised to find their heartburn easing and their nights much more restful. One of the silent enemies of the stomach, especially after 50, is fried, greasy food. I get it. Nobody can resist the crunch of crispy fried chicken or the golden glow of French fries. But behind that delicious taste is a battle your stomach has to fight. I remember a 67-year-old patient telling me, "Doc, whenever I eat fried chicken with my grandkids, I feel so happy. But afterward, my stomach feels heavy. I can't breathe easily. And at night, I'm hit with heartburn." I explained to her that deep-fried food is like dropping a rock into your stomach. It digests slowly, forcing your body to pump out extra acid. And that pressure makes it much easier for acid to reflux back into the esophagus. Science confirms this. Saturated fats slow down gastric emptying. Food just sits there, while the esophageal sphincter, the valve that weakens with age, struggles to hold the line. The result? A long, restless night instead of a peaceful sleep. Now, I'm not saying you have to give it all up, but instead of fried chicken dripping with oil, try grilled chicken, pan-seared fish with olive oil, or air-fried potatoes. The flavor may be a little different, but in exchange, your body feels lighter and your sleep deeper. After 50, what we really need isn't the fleeting crunch of fried food, but a body that thanks us for treating it kindly. And sometimes, just skipping one piece of fried food is enough to give yourself an entire night of peace. There's one habit I see all the time in older adults, and truth be told, it's one of the silent reasons acid reflux gets worse. That habit is eating too fast. One of my patients, a 59-year-old woman, once told me, "Doc, I only get 15 minutes for lunch at work, so I rush through my meal. But afterward, My stomach feels heavy, bloated, and I get heartburn all afternoon. See, eating quickly may save you a few minutes, but your stomach ends up paying the price the whole day. Think of your stomach like a blender. If you toss in chopped vegetables, it blends smoothly, but throw in a whole carrot and the blender struggles, overheats, maybe even breaks down. That's exactly what happens when you eat too fast, swallowing big bites without chewing well. Your stomach has to work harder, pump out more acid, and that pressure makes reflux much more likely. Research shows that people who eat quickly are twice as likely to suffer from acid reflux compared to those who eat slowly and chew thoroughly. And after 50, when digestion naturally slows and the esophageal sphincter weakens, the risk only increases. That's why I often tell my patients, try slowing down. Put your fork down between bites, take a breath, chew thoroughly. Not only does it ease the burden on your stomach, but it also turns mealtime into a moment to savor instead of a race to finish. After 50, what we need isn't to eat fast just to get it over with, but to eat slowly to live longer, healthier. Sometimes just a few extra minutes at the table can buy you an entire night of peaceful sleep. Many people still believe fruit is always good for your health, and for the most part, that's true. But there's a group of fruits, especially oranges, lemons, grapefruits, and pineapples, that can turn into a double-edged sword for anyone struggling with acid reflux. I remember one patient, a 63-year-old woman, who faithfully drank orange juice every morning. She believed it was the best way to get her daily vitamin C and stay healthy. But every time she finished her glass, she felt burning in her chest and irritation in her throat. When I explained it to her, she was shocked. How could something I thought was good for me actually be making me suffer? The truth is, acidic fruits are like pouring gasoline on a fire. The lining of the esophagus is already irritated, and now it has to handle even more acid from the food. The result? Burning pain, sour reflux, and even sleepless nights. I often tell my patients, imagine your stomach like a small wound. If you sprinkle salt or squeeze lemon on it, it stings worse. An inflamed esophagus works the same way. The acid from oranges, lemons, grapefruits, and pineapples is like rubbing salt into an open cut. That doesn't mean you have to give up fruit altogether. Instead, choose low-acid options: bananas, melons, pears. They're still rich in nutrients, but much gentler on the stomach. Many of my patients who made this switch were surprised to see their reflux symptoms ease dramatically. After 50, it's not just about eating what's healthy, it's about eating what's compatible with your body. And sometimes, a simple banana is a far more soothing gift than a glass of sharp, acidic orange juice. There's something many of my patients never expect. Food isn't always the main culprit behind acid reflux. Sometimes it's stress and long-term tension that end up pouring fuel on the fire. I remember a 57-year-old patient, the director of a small company. He told me, "Doc, my diet hasn't changed at all, but my heartburn keeps getting worse, especially at night." When I asked more questions, I learned his company was struggling. He was staying up late, constantly worrying, and living with his mind wound tight like a guitar string. That stress alone was pushing his stomach to pump out far more acid than normal. Science confirms this. When we're stressed, the body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Those hormones push the stomach into overtime, churning out acid nonstop, even when you haven't eaten anything. The result? Extra acid finds its way back into the esophagus, causing burning and discomfort. I often describe stress as an uninvited guest. It doesn't knock, it just walks in, sits down, and slowly takes over your house. If you don't learn how to show that guest the door, your body pays the price. The good news is, you can take control. Some of my patients began simple habits like light meditation in the morning, a 20-minute walk after meals, or just turning off their phones earlier at night. Within weeks, their reflux symptoms eased and their sleep became deeper. After 50, digestive health isn't only about what you eat. It's about how you live. And sometimes, letting go of worry is the strongest medicine your stomach could ever ask for. One of the habits that seems harmless, but causes the most trouble for the stomach after 50 is Eating late at night. I often tell my patients it's basically a VIP ticket straight to an acid reflux episode. I remember a 64-year-old patient who sighed to me, "Doc, I usually eat dinner late because I wait for my kids and grandkids to come home. After eating, I feel tired, so I lie down right away. And almost every night I wake up with burning in my chest, sour reflux, to the point I have to sit up in the middle of the night." This is a story I've heard hundreds of times over the past 30 years. The reason is simple. After 50, digestion slows down. If you eat late and then go straight to bed, the food just sits there in your stomach. Meanwhile, lying flat removes gravity's help in keeping acid down. The result? Acid easily flows back into the esophagus, waking you up in discomfort. Science shows the risk of reflux doubles if you eat within 2 hours of going to bed. And for older adults, that risk is even higher. That's why I always recommend try to have dinner earlier, at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. And if you get hungry later, choose something light and easy to digest, like a ripe banana or a warm glass of milk. Your body will thank you for that small but smart choice. After 50, sleep becomes a treasure. So why trade a peaceful night's rest for a rushed late-night meal? Give your stomach the rest it deserves, and you'll gain back nights free from acid's grip.